I want to call to order the Citizens Night meeting of April 3rd, 2014 for the Municipality of Monroeville. It is approximately 7:04 p.m. If we'd all please rise for the Lord's Prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'm sorry to report that Mayor Iricinko cannot be with us this evening. He actually has been hospitalized. I have spoke with him. He is in good spirits, and he's hoping to be out in the next day or so. He was going to come here with his IV bag and on a stretcher, but the doctors wouldn't let him, so we all know how serious he takes this job, but I'm going to fill in for him tonight, and hopefully he's back on Tuesday. He also wanted me to relay that he has a full report on the Health and Human Service investigation that he plans on giving on Tuesday or the next meeting that he is able to attend. So tonight we're going to, first we're going to open up our Citizens Night remarks and comments. If anyone is signed in.
I'll sign it, I'll give it to you. You sign it and I'll give it to you.
Dave McMaster, Monroeville. Okay, I'm here to remind people that we're going to be stocking the Turtle Creek Tuesday on the 8th at 12 noon. The Fish Commission is bringing the fish, and we're going to float stock, and we're going to bucket them into the creek. Trout season's opening up on the 12th. That's a Saturday. We also will have a in-stocking on the 23rd. So what we need some help, people taking the float boxes down. We retrofitted the 5-gallon or 55-gallon plastic barrels for floaters. And what we do is we take about 3 or 4 barrels and load them up with trout and have 2 people per barrel take them down. And then we bucket fish in and around the bridge down at the bottom of Saunders Station. Then we go down on Forbes Road and we pull behind the BY pond. We don't stock the BY pond. And we start there and we bucket fish into a big hole there. Take the truck around and we go down to the, there's a little gas well beside a trucking company. And we usually put a box or 2 in there, a float 2 in there, we bucket the rest of the fish. That's where we empty the truck. So we're talking about 300 maybe, or 3,000, maybe 4,000 fish. If you want to fish, you're going to have to get a fishing license, all right? And if you're 16 and over, you'll need a license. Anybody below the age of 16 doesn't need a license. So get the kids interested and bring them down, let them splash around the creek, catch a fish or 2. The license are, for adults are $22.70, plus you have to get another $9.70 for a trout stamp if you're going to trout fish. And like I say, it's going to be 12 noon, the truck's going to be in. We get people down there to help us get them fish in the water as quick as we can so we don't stress them out. The more we have, more people we have, the faster it'll go and the easier it'll go. Bring your chest waders. Are there any questions? Hope to see a crowd down there.
Dave, are there senior licenses available?
What's that?
Licenses for seniors?
For seniors, yeah, you need a lifetime license, all right? And
I
licenses
was
are
wondering,
available. What's it?
Mr. Duncan's ready to.
Yeah, well, he's about ready.
Thanks.
There's several ways you can obtain a fishing license. You go online to the Fish Commission website. You can get them by mail. You can go to the store. You have Gander Mountain. You have Ultimate Fishing out here on 286. Dick's Sporting Goods store. They all handle the license, so they're not hard to get.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, Robert Gordon.
Oh, he had to leave. That's who I was talking to out there.
Move on to Len Young. Mr. Young.
You already signed it.
Oh, okay. Good evening. I'm Len Young from Monroeville, and a couple of items I'd like to bring to everybody's attention, especially everybody out in TV land. The Sons of the American Legion, Gold Star Post 820 here in Monroeville, is having our annual Monte Carlo night. It's Friday, April the 25th of this month, and tickets are $10 a piece. We have all kind of food, beer, soda pop, if you like to drink. It's all included in the $10 donation. Also, with that $10 donation, you get 2 numbers on each ticket. Gives you 2 chances to win a 50-inch Sony flat screen TV with Blu-ray player and surround sound system. Goes off on the daily number the next night. So tickets, like I said, they're only $10 a piece. You can see any of the Sons, a lot of us around, any members of the American Legion. Be happy to fix you up there. So we hope to see a nice turnout. We do this every year, and it's a real nice time. Got real nice games to play and everything, too. Looked over the agenda tonight, and it looks like, as I saw in the newspaper earlier, you guys are going to consider an ordinance restructuring the membership of the Monroeville Zoning Hearing Board from 5 to 3 members to try to save a little bit of money. I got a better suggestion. Keep the 5 members on there, just don't pay them. That's all. Why do they need to be paid $150 a month? You know, you guys do a lot of stuff, we do a lot of stuff, everybody does a lot of things volunteering. You know, I deliver Meals on Wheels, don't need any gas money, don't need any compensation. Just don't pay them, that's all. Keep the 5 members, though, my recommendation. Last but not least, this is a constitution right here, Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where we live. In case anybody's not familiar with Article 1, Section 21 of the Constitution of Pennsylvania, it's called the right to bear arms. It's really nothing directly related to anything that you guys are involved with, but just on a bigger picture scale so that we're familiar with the words of our Constitution. The right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Robert Heiss.
Question.
Good evening. I'm Robert Heiss, and I am a resident of Monroeville. Again, thank you for permitting me to speak tonight. What I have to say stems from the discussion that I had with you good people and the rest of the people watching over this referendum dealing with the library tax, another 1 mil tacked on to everybody's property. What I find interesting about this whole thing is I've been talking to people ever since last month. I've gotten a lot of phone calls. I'm going to be addressing a group of people on Monday night. So the momentum is starting to grow, and so is their anger over this. I want to say to you that the library people claim to have done their homework. They told all of you this. They told everybody that they've done their homework. No, they haven't. I've done mine. Just real brief, one of the things that I do, I take care of maintenance on a lot of properties. I work for real estate companies and development companies. Now, the proper thing is not to mention any of these companies' names, and I don't. I won't. But especially the real estate companies, Mrs. Fennessy and her people never once approached any of these real estate companies. We have 3 major real estate companies within this community. They never called to sit down and ask what the ramifications would be if we went to 5 mills. I can tell you right here and right now, the people who work real estate and the real estate companies are really in a frenzy over this. People are not going to want to buy homes within this community at 5 mills. They'll go to Plum where it's 4 mills. That's the reality. Or they'll go to Murraysville. Businesses are not going to want to locate here. Now, I know we're not too sympathetic about businesses, most people aren't. But the realization is that the business tax base over the years helped to really stimulate the economy in years past, and in fact, build this community to where it's at. So now you're looking at office buildings and apartment buildings, and again, I work for a lot of these people. They are regrettably, and they don't want to do it, but they're going to do it, especially if this library tax is tacked on. They are going to raise the rents on these properties. So those of you out there that are watching that live in apartments, if you think you're safe from this, you're not. So those of you that are residents of Monroeville, that are voting residents of Monroeville, and you live in apartments, then I would suggest that you join the band of people that we're trying to put together and get out in May and vote this referendum down. What this is going to be, ladies and gentlemen, is a nuisance tax. We don't need any more nuisance taxes. We don't. I understand fully why council moved us up 1.57 mils. I understand. I get it. I understand. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I'm looking at the repair that needs to be done on our roads right now in our infrastructure. This winter was terrible. Not to mention, last I heard, over $100,000 in extra salt, not to mention the overtime, that we have to pay out. I understand that. I get it. I want my garbage collection the way it is, as I mentioned last month, and I want my roads salted, and I want my roads plowed. I want to be able to dial 911 and get a fire truck, a police car, or an ambulance if I need it. Ladies and gentlemen, these are essential services, and as a community, we have to pay for them. I understand it. I get it. The library is treated very, very, very generously by you people on council. You have for years. You have for years. But it's not enough. They want perks. They want an elevator. They want this, that, or the other thing. The question that I have for them is this, and I think this is the question that the citizens of Monroeville have to ask. What in the HELL are they going to do with another $1 million plus a year? I'll tell you what they're going to do with it. They're going to squander it. You have 7 people on a board that basically volunteer their time. God love them. I volunteered my time to different things within this community most of my life. And I have a soft spot in my heart for volunteers. But what they're asking for is ridiculous. It's inconceivable. What they need to realize is this. People aren't using libraries the way they used to use them. Libraries in 5, 10 years, public libraries in 5 or 10 years down the road are going to be nowhere near what they are now, because the realization is that you can go online and you can get any book you want online. People do that. I'm talking to college students. They're telling me they seldom use the libraries because they can get anything they need with respect to research that they have to do on the internet. And they have it instantaneously, and they have it in the piece of their own dorm rooms or at home. Gateway High School has a fantastic library. My understanding is the students don't really use it. because, again, they can get anything they need on the internet. And this is what I don't understand. What these people on the library board need to think about is better managing their money, because obviously they can't do it. They're getting 1.35 now million. Most of that, good people in council are giving that to them, but they get money from the state, they get money from the county. What more do they need? Don't reach into my pocket and don't reach into the citizens' pocket of those that don't even use it. I mean, Mrs. Fennessy made the statement that, oh, we have 15,000 people registered at the library that are members that use it. Well, I would like to ask her, and I will at some point, and anyone else on that board, 15,000 people. Okay, of those 15,000 people, how many have been in there and used that facility within the last year? And it gets better. How many of those people are Monroeville residents? I have no problem with non-residents using any of our facilities. I encourage it. It's nice to have people come in from out of town and use our facilities and spend their money here. That's what helps make our world go around. I go by the library occasionally, and I've been going by it more often just to look in the parking lot. My numbers don't add up with what they're trying to tell us, because I don't buy that they have 15,000 active members that use it. But whether they do or they don't is not the issue right now. The issue right now is that tax is going to be a killer. On top of what we have to pay now, that tax is going to be a killer. People are seething, and they don't care. I've made the statement. Not only our senior citizens, God love them, are they strapped for money, but last month you had a young fella in here, younger guy, late 20s, I think, said he moved to Monroeville because he brought his family here because this is a pretty good community. The millage was right. Okay, he got hit with the same thing that I got hit with, that everybody got hit with. Then to tack another mill on top of that is just more than people can bear. Now, people have said to me, well, Bob, a mill, what's a mill? What's the big deal? And I tell them what a mill is. A mill is $2.4 million. $2.4 million. And that's what people need to realize. They are asking for $2.4 million a year. And they get this, if this referendum passes, they get this every year. And there's no stopping it. Well, you know how well you know, once you get a tax pushed forward like that, try getting it repealed. Just try. So, again, I'm in the Monroeville White Pages under Max H. Heiss, H-E-I-S-S. I've gotten phone calls. We've talked. I've talked to some good people out there. Please give me a call. Because there are actually, I was surprised how many people didn't even know about this. Now they're starting to pay attention. Ladies and gentlemen on council, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Little, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you again tonight.
Mr. Excuse me, can I ask you a question? You said you were having a meeting on Monday.
I am.
Do you want to state where you're having that?
No, not
No?
right now.
Okay.
Not right now. And I have a reason for that.
That's okay.
And the reason for
I just
that
want you to
is.
feel free if that's something you want to
Right.
do.
No, if certain people call me, yeah, absolutely. But you have to understand, because I've been in business for years, I'm very untrusting.
Okay.
And I'm sure that there will be moles there.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing, real quick, one of the things that they did that was really pretty smart, they got this referendum put together, and on the ballot, stop and think about this, ladies and gentlemen, an off-year primary election. They knew darn right well but not a lot of people were going to come out to vote. What, 12 people, 12% maybe? They know this. And they are going to flood those polls with their people to get this thing through. And they are going to pull and tug at everybody's heartstrings because they're going to have people working there, probably little kiddies holding their books with tears in their eyes with little signs, "Oh, please don't close my library." Nobody has any intention of closing it. We just want those people to live within their means, and we don't want them dipping into our pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heiss. Robert Serafini.
See all this paper? Max just said it. So I'm not going to repeat any of it, except my last paragraph. The $1,110,000 is in excess of the money the library will have each and every year. They don't have to account to anybody or anything. They are free to do what they want when they want. They don't want to account for nothing or nobody. I feel if the library needs more money, they should go to our elected council and show a need for it. A $1 million increase on top of the $1.5 million increase of the 2014 budget shows a tremendous amount of nerve and a lack of caring upon their part. Thank you. Oh, one other thing. Mr. Little, I asked you a couple months ago for some particulars on two things at Beth Fishman. Would you address those at your manager's meeting minutes?
Right now?
You can do it now or at the manager's minutes, whichever one you prefer,
Oh,
sir.
I can do it now since you have it. Mr. Serafini asked me during the budget public hearings about the longevity of each department, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Clerical, $18,600. Police, $63,328. This is 2013. Police, $63,328. Library, $7,150. Public Works, $34,385. Non-union, $28,500. Refuse, $3,900. That's a total of $155,863. You can have this if you want it.
I'd appreciate it, because I was going to get it off the TV in the morning.
Mr. Serafini also asked me if council remembers during the budget public hearings, I think it was Beth Fishman and Mr. Serafini asked about, in the budget, the deductible high mark, which is in the budget item 2500. And what I explained to the public and Mrs. Fishman was that that is the deductible that the municipality pays because beginning in 2011, the municipality went to a higher deductible in order to lower the premium. Just like car insurance. You raise your deductible, you lower your premium, the same thing. That's why when you look at the budget, you look across there, that line item went up tremendously in 2011. But if you look in another part of the budget, the premium came down. And that is budgeted for in 2014, in 2013, the total was $279,138. So that's what that is, okay? If that answers your question.
Yes,
Okay?
yes. You answered both of them.
Okay,
Okay, may I have the papers then?
Sure,
If I
yeah.
may step up there?
yeah.
And did you also get one for this? You're going to get me? For the employees?
For the library?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right here. Okay,
Thank you very much.
all right, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Serafini.
Thank you, sir.
Nact Monning. Mr. Monning.
Good evening, Council. My name is Walt Monty from Garden City.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
Yeah, it's a little hard to hear you.
Walt, I'm sorry, I
Apologies.
mispronounced. I misread your John Hancock here. Walt.
The John Hancock is Monning, M-O-N-N-I-N-G,
Gotcha.
from Garden City. Recently, I received that tax notice increase, and I about hit the floor. As quite a few citizens in Monroeville, this is a hit to most of us, all of us, and many senior citizens. It's quite a shocker. I've talked to a few people in the community, and my biggest problem is understanding exactly why this huge increase took place. And I was told by several people that previous council, there were 4 members and I think possibly, I'm not sure, the president, was ousted from this council commission and replaced with new individuals. The new individuals discovered haphazard budgeting and misappropriation or the likes of therefore. This is the basis, from what I was told, is the reason for this huge $1.5 million increase on our taxes, which amounts to, from what I was told, around $3 million. For years, Monroeville has done quite a job on budgeting the monies that have been received from taxes, and all of a sudden, we need $3 million more. I personally would like to know the real reasons for justifying a tax increase such as this. And if this is a tax increase to pay for litigation or whatever from the previous council members and their activities in Monroeville, is this a one-time increase? And are we going to revert back to the 2.5 or not? I'm grateful. I can boast also we have 650 acres of parks and recreation land. My parks and recreation, I open my back door and there it is. I don't use many services in Monroeville, and that's my choice. I really think council should take a better look at this situation. And as I said, I would really like to know the facts exact why we need $3 million increase. And I hope council reverses that. This is exorbitant. It's, in my opinion, it's unjustified, and it is taxing senior citizens to the hilt. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Monning. That's all we have signed in for this evening. Anyone else like to address council?
If you could sign and state your name, sir,
Okay.
please.
My name is Patrick Monahan, resident, Monroeville. I wish the mayor a speedy recovery. There's a bad flu going around. Found out about the newest investigation last night on the Post-Gazette website. I had several thoughts on the matter. The first was indignation that you, our council, who pledged to change the way the municipality does business, is doing the exact opposite. You're doing things beyond our backs without our own input, which is a violation of the law and causes concern about your ethics. I was also indignant because many of you spent many Tuesday or Thursday evenings in these chambers last year complaining about the Daley investigation. Some of you, notably Deputy Mayor Griesach and Councilman Duncan, specifically stated that an outside private investigator was not needed, that any investigation could be handled by council, and you weren't happy with spending the money. Here we are a year later, and you're doing the exact same thing. The biggest difference is that council last year did it publicly, and you guys tried to do it privately. The mayor also stated that Mr. Daley was a good friend of Stephen Pasquarella's. He questioned the legitimacy of the investigation, or perhaps the impartiality. My question is, how was the latest PI firm hired? May I get an answer, please, Deputy Mayor?
I'm letting you do your comments.
Okay, thank you. The biggest complaint last year was how the investigation was a giant waste of money. Many of you insisted there was no HIPAA violation. You guys are the ones that are stuck on HIPAA. It was one thing, HIPAA. The rest of us who are in opposition to you consider it a privacy breach many times. The one HIPAA thing, I'm glad that there was no violation because it would have costed us all money. But there was a serious privacy breach over 2.5 years, and that is what most of us, the people that I associate with, are concerned about, not the HIPAA thing. And contrary to Councilwoman Gatos, Councilman Johns and Wilson, HHS did not vindicate Doug Cole. They did in fact point out that there clearly were privacy issues. This one particular complaint did not fall under the HHS guidelines. However, this is not to say there wasn't other issues under CREO. It was been determined by HHS and the Pennsylvania Attorney General that for over 2 years there was unauthorized access to the Alert TS software. And nothing was done. Nothing was done about it. And we're concerned now that since everyone else has been put back into their positions, who's to say it's not happening right now? We don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you guys know, but I don't know. It's the privacy thing is what we're concerned about. You're spending money that is not yours, which is what you guys complained about last year, the money that was being spent. You got what you wanted. Lynette McKinney has been terminated. Doug Cole was reinstated. The dispatchers who were fired were also rehired. And Stephen Pasquarella's career as a law enforcement officer in Monroeville is essentially over. What more do you want? You've retaliated against several employees, some of whom had nothing to do with this mess, and it appears you're attempting to retaliate further with a rumored change within the zoning board. You want to change the zoning board from 5 members to 3 to save $3,600 when you guys voted 7-0 on last month's budget increase. I don't think that you guys care about $3,600. I think it's a retaliation against John Yacob, who's public in his criticism, and Stephen Pasquarella's father, who also sits on that board. I think it's further retaliation against Mr. Pasquarella. If you guys could get me the answer to how you hired a PI firm, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address council this evening? And we're going to close our Citizens Night meeting and move on to our agenda-setting meeting for April 3rd, 2013, which is today, for Tuesday's meeting of April 8th. All members are present except for the mayor. I'd like to make an executive session announcement. Council conducted an executive session for personnel and litigation on Wednesday, March 19th, 2014, from 6 p.m. to 7:20 p.m. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the April 8th council meeting. And are there any public comments on the proposed agenda items? Seeing none, we're going to move on to a presentation by Mark Schuster through the company Turnkey Taxes.
Just to give council a premise, Liz Summer, the assistant tax collector, introduced me to Mark Schuster of Turnkey Taxes about 6 weeks ago, and I listened to Mr. Schuster about collection of his company with respect to delinquent business privilege tax and mercantile tax. And I listened to what he had to say, and I thought that I should invite him in front of council, in front of a agenda-setting meeting, so he can give his presentation about what his company does on those delinquent taxes, and council can ask any questions of him. Okay?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you folks today. I've been in technology for many years. I wrote my first piece of code in 1971. I have since then written in just about every programming language and done every piece of database entry and design that you could come up with. About 5 years ago, I was introduced to Act 32 and became a delegate for the little town of Crafton, PA. And what I uncovered was local government does not have the tools to properly monitor and collect money. Turnkey Taxes is a web app that allows local governments to increase tax revenues without raising taxes. And it sounds too good to be true, but it's all about the data. What we found, there was some shortfalls, not only in EIT, but one of the things that we focused on was business privilege and MERC. Think of Turnkey Taxes as nothing other than an online bank statement where you can consolidate all of your businesses, all of your properties, all of your individuals, and any other expense that comes in through local governments. So, for instance, cell phone towers or franchise fees or grants from the federal or the state. I had just assumed that these type of software packages exist. I didn't find any, and there still is none to my knowledge in the state of Pennsylvania or anywhere else for local governments in America. So during the year 2011, I set out to build this animal. In 2012, I became heavily involved with Act 32. As you know, Centax went out of business. There was about 1,000 communities and school districts that lost a lot of money because of that. I quit a great job and a great company to try to save them. We were a number of years too late. But since then, I've formed two companies. One is eCollect, which is a true tax collector, and the other one is Turnkey, which provides all this information. Because it's a web app, anyone can monitor these things. Any of the finance directors, members of council, your existing current tax office. When we built this thing, we thought if we worked our tails off by having somebody focus on delinquents and audits, and me doing the data mining and putting everything up there where it's accountable and transparent, that if we worked real hard, we would show an increase of 2 to 5%. Year over year, our returns last year in our first full year for 10 communities, a number of them distressed across Pennsylvania, was between a 25 and 112% increase. You folks have a $6.2 million business privilege tax. A 25% increase to you would be about $1.5 million or more. That's the worst we did, was a 25% increase. Where do we find it? I look everywhere. So when I'm looking for businesses, I'm looking for landlords, I'm looking for people that are leasing to strip, the shopping centers, strip malls. I'm looking for businesses that may be working out of their house, and I was able to secure from the state of Pennsylvania the complete list of Pennsylvania businesses that have state tax licenses. We also do audits. I was also a founding member of eCollect. We'll go in and do audits if something looks like it should be. The McDonald's is reporting that they made $10,000 in revenue. These are real numbers, folks. By putting everything up there, we can monitor variance. The nice thing about Turnkey, we can load in historical information, and it provides you a complete encyclopedia of those business taxes forever. It's not a one-quarter report or whatever. It will start building, so you can go in and look and measure variances and measure your licenses and whatever. We're not out to displace anybody. We work with you. I would consider myself basically an employee for the city of Monroeville. And I did come here, I had talked to Mr. Little, and our offer is that we would still like to keep that 25% increase. We are guaranteeing that we will find you $500,000. We will give you Turnkey for free, and our cost, other than the charge we would, for the delinquent, would be nothing. So unless we find money that you collect that you didn't even know you had, you pay nothing. And it's free. So if we find $100,000 that you didn't know exist, the charge would be 15%. You would get the other $85,000. And we're very, yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Why wouldn't the people that are basically delinquent pay that 15% fee? Why would we pay that 15% fee?
That's totally up to you. I mean, I'm not sure how the ordinance is. It's just that our fee is typically 15%. Whether you decide to pass that on.
Why should we have to pay for them to be delinquent?
Great point.
Now, in some communities, do you pass it on to the delinquent?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if it's the way the ordinance, I'm the data guy. If it's the way the ordinance, if you have penalties and interest, we have had some communities, for instance, a business might not know that there was a business privilege tax. You may have somebody that by day is working as an accountant at PPG, and maybe they're doing, taxes on the side, just as a side business. So they moved into Monroeville, they've been here 3 or 4 years, they didn't know there was a business privilege tax. It's up to you if you would want to charge them a penalty and interest. But again, it's all about data, and it's all about money. And once you load the data, it is very scalable, it is very clean. I've built this thing so I can import all of the taxpayers. So now, Monroeville would have all their taxpayers, they would have the local address, like the McDonald's on Main Street, and the parent address, which is located in Des Plaines, Illinois. From there, we would also have on that account screen, you would have every tax that business has paid. You would also have an audit trail. Anytime anybody that's logged in makes a change to a phone number, to an address, you can add your own contacts. But I've kept it simple, because simple works. You have taxpayers, you have transactions. We get the feed of the transactions, you turn it on, whatever business hasn't paid, you collect them. And by the way, we want to get to, we're not out to make money off of delinquents or make money off of audits. If we can catch them in advance, then they're paying the current rate, which I believe is 2% of the taxes. So I build in functionality like Excel exports so that you can do mail merges, or you could do email from there. We've kept it real simple. But again, that's I know it would work for you. I know we would find you at least $500,000. Yes, sir.
When you do the data mining, I don't know if everybody's familiar with data mining, but my experience with it is that you capture information, and it's over a broad spectrum. For example, you'll have fast foods, or you'll have hotels or something like that. That'll be individuals, and you'll be able to maintain that going forward once you get all the information that's in your data mining system.
Correct. So again, the starting point was, how many businesses do you have in your community? I mean, when we load everything into Turnkey, that's going to be on the front page. So if you have 3,500 businesses and next year only 3,400 pay, what happened? Landlords are businesses. How many landlords do you have in Monroeville? Do you have them all? I don't think so. What we've found is, where people are focusing on businesses, maybe landlords maybe you don't even know they have landlords. So what we do is we would do like a cross-reference to the trash. We would do a cross-reference to the property listings. In my little town, what we had discovered, and it's just, we started with business privilege, and I looked through the files and I said, show me the process for when people move into a community, how do you get those people on the books to pay earned income tax? Crafton is a 43% rental. What's the process when somebody moves in at the beginning of the year to get that information to Jordan Tax? Well, they didn't have a set process. So we were missing a little bit on the business privilege tax, and we're probably missing a lot on the earned income tax. So what we've done is we're going to reverse the situation. We're going to have the landlords tell us who moved in. That's going to get loaded into Turnkey. Now we're waiting for the money to come back in. If it doesn't come back in, it's delinquent. Now that's a byproduct of business privilege tax, but now you've helped yourself out by making sure that all your residents are in there, all your landlords are in there, and that whoever is collecting your earned income tax is going to collect that as well. But when you have all the information in there, all properties, all businesses, all individuals, year after year, and as you start loading one or more things in, like I said, Turnkey has the ability to load all 3 of those classifications in there. But where I'd like to start is to help you folks with the business privilege tax, because I promise you, we're going to find you at least $500,000, and I think maybe more like $1 million.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When you find these delinquent taxes, is this just a presentation to us that there's the money, go get it, or do you
No, we
provide
do all, that's part of our free service.
any kind of, do
Exactly.
you include the legal, if you actually have to legally take them? to-
Yeah, yes. Now, at that point, the percentage, great question. So let's go through the timing. If they are delinquent, so we get the current listing, they haven't paid, we would send out the letters on our nickel. We would collect the payments, and what I've told eCollect, which is the tax collector, I made that change in Pennsylvania, too. They're going to deposit it into your bank account first, not what most, actually, all other tax collectors do. They put it in the tax collector's account. We're going to give you the money first. We're going to put it into Turnkey so you can watch. We send out the letters, we receive the payments, we put it into your bank account. If 20% of the letters don't come back, we will contact them again, a second letter. It's another touch. And it's like, you have 90 days under the Bill of Rights to pay. Otherwise, we take you to litigation. If it gets to litigation, the percentage goes from 15% to 25%. Again, nothing out of your pocket. And we don't collect the 25 unless the money gets collected and goes into your bank account. So for you, I've removed all the risks. And with Turnkey, I've removed, you don't have to buy special computers. You don't have to buy software licensing. You don't even have to back up your own data. The only thing you need for Turnkey is to remember your name and your password. I'll do everything else.
And you would work with who? Directly the tax
All of
office,
you,
the manager?
actually, I know Ms. Summers.
Okay.
She's a business privilege. They do all the current and some of the other stuff. I've worked with RBA software. We've actually exchanged so we can talk to each other data-wise. But you do a great job on the current end, but when it gets into the audit, and especially into discovery is what I do in the wee hours of the morning. I go in there and find stuff that's not even there, that people wouldn't even know where to look, whether it's Google or OneSource or just, there's sources out on the internet where I'll find people. And then what we'll do is I'll work with the current, and we'll get them loaded in, because not only do you want to collect the money you're owed, you want to make sure that they're on the roll moving forward. So you may have 3,500 businesses in 2014. Next year, you might have 4,000. But again, I've removed everything, so it's, I'm hoping I made it real difficult to say no to free, but that's...
Mark, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the guaranteed $500,000 on the free part of it.
Yeah.
If you get, let's say, out of, let's say, $500,000 in new revenue, let's say that 100,000 of that has to go to litigation, to magistrate. How is your structure there? Is that still free?
Well, if we collect it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So if we collect it, it would still be free, but if we don't meet that threshold, we're going to meet the threshold. I'm not going to, I just won't let that happen.
So
To me,
so maybe the threshold, is the threshold the gross of what you collect?
The threshold, so if it's $500,000, so, you bring in 100,000 that went to litigation, so that's 75,000. We would take the 25,000, that 75 would go to Monroeville and count as that $500,000.
Okay.
If the other 400,000 comes in and that's at 15%, then we would take that off, so it's 30, 60,000 would come to us, and the other 440,000 would go to you. Now you have the 75, 440, or 340, whatever. So we need to exceed the $500,000 that goes into your coffers.
And what's the time frame on the $500,000, say, guarantee? Like, what kind of
Well,
timeframe
we
do
would
you-
take your 2013, whenever you start the contract, that's when we would start the ticking. So if
You
we
still-
signed a
for a year-
contract,
for the year-
yeah,
for
for 1 year from there. So if it was June 1st or May 1st, we would start. And by the way, we can usually get started the next day, and we've made it real simple to get the imports and the interfaces and stuff. I do all that on my own. So, we load the information in, the transactions, if it comes in monthly, it comes in monthly, and what we do is we analyze it and say who hasn't paid. So,
Do your fees change at all? As Mr. Wilson suggested, that why should we be responsible to pay for any portion of a delinquent tax?
if it's the way the ordinance is, and I apologize, I really didn't look into, because
Tim, is that the way our ordinance is written?
yeah.
I mean, you can put that in there if you wanted to
Yeah,
pass.
do we
that
have to
along there.
legislate that, though?
Yeah, I mean, Liz would know more about that than I would.
Okay.
Liz?
Thank you for
Okay.
having me up here. Our current situation is that all the costs are passed on to the taxpayer. So we give them a notice, certified mail, that explains what the fees will be if we have to litigate. And it's broken down in fixed amounts. And then we pass that on to taxpayers so that all the solicitor's fees and everything are not out of our pocket. We charge it on to the taxpayer.
I know with the school district, when we had the delinquent taxes collected, that they paid the delinquent fee
Right.
to the
That's
collector.
the real estate, right.
Yeah,
That's the same here.
yeah.
And Liz, is this something that would be an enhancement of the tax office at this point?
There would be some enhancements. One of the situations we ran into was when our office was downsized, our auditing department was eliminated. So currently, we don't have an official audit department. So the decision needs to be made, do we want to reopen that, which was a very successful program that brought in millions of dollars. I was the initial auditor back in the 90s, and we always exceeded budget when we did, and that program was very successful. We had a really good working relationship with Chelsea Dice. We were doing audits of earned income tax employers that brought in more money from that, and now it's a struggle to keep up with what's out there. So I know there's money out there. I totally agree with the process. It's a question of, do you want it done in-house? Do you want to use some of Mark's services, and we would supplement by doing the audits ourselves? We can make different arrangements and finding businesses. We have tools to find businesses. We don't have manpower to find them right now. We have, we've used a lot of the resources that he mentioned over the years. I'm on the board of directors for the Tax Collectors Association, and we keep up to date on, we share information regularly on how to find businesses. We use monthly lists that we get from the building department and build contractors, and so we have things that are in place that we've put in place over the 20 years that I've worked here. It's just a matter of keeping up with the data and the billing and the collections.
Are you saying then there's no way around that we will have to put another person in the tax office to either supplement and/or?
Can I just throw something in? I've known Liz for a couple of years now. She is a tremendous talent. When you take the information through Turnkey and make it electronic, it allows her to maybe come up to a higher level of highest and best use. I mean, she's basically, she could do more with the auditing. We don't have to have 100% of the auditing. We can just, identify a lot of the stuff. But rather than, I know that with every local government, they're asking people to do more with less. They just have less resources.
But she's saying we closed down basically our department now, so that means we have lost some manpower within that office.
We've lost
Right.
a lot of manpower in the tax office.
So it
and
would behoove us to even consider that
No
another
question.
individual, or?
No question, to bring in a person to do auditing would more than pay for itself.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What I'm looking at here, I believe, is the Monroeville Code, where it says the elected tax collector shall serve as a delinquent tax collector for the collection of delinquent taxes. So we'd actually be going against the code?
Actually, that's regarding real estate, and right now we're talking about business privilege and mercantile.
Okay, so I'm
So we're on
talking
two
about the
different
511
taxes.
then, correct?
Well, it is, they're all 511 taxes. The real estate tax is a separate matter, a separate
That refers to
section.
real estate, Steve.
That, what you're reading
Okay.
is referring to real estate, which is next on the agenda.
Yes.
So hold that thought.
Okay.
Liz, if you
I'm
may
sorry.
mention for everybody, there's multiple things we're talking about here as far as what is delinquent and what we can audit. There's
Right.
Business privilege, business licenses, mercantile, earned
Trade
income.
show.
So
yeah.
could you give me a
Yeah,
quick?
our office collects the business privilege tax, which is assessed mainly on businesses that have receipts other than tangible goods. The mercantile tax is a gross receipts tax on the tangible goods. So we don't pick and choose. Everybody, the tax is assessed on everyone except for nonprofits, which would be your churches, your fire halls, unless they have activity that is not related to their charitable purpose. That's the only exception. We also collect a trade show license, which applies mainly to our convention center. At one time, back in the day, it was also applied to all the different hotels that had shows, boxing matches and things. So when the Palace Inn was operating, there was events held there as well. So we collect that trade show license. We audit all of these things by cross-referencing who the businesses are, where they're, registering. We take all that data, and that's part of our, audit processes to correlate all this data. The business privilege also applies to temporary vendors that hold shows at the Expo Mart, the convention center. I'm sorry, I'm dating myself. And the I've been here a long time. And we look at building permits, any of the new construction, the hospital that was built. That is all fair game under the business tax that we collect. We also have local services tax, and when we audit everything we collect. So if an employer is reporting, 50 employees, but only has $10,000 in gross receipts, we think that's unrealistic, and we use that as a tool to figure out what they should be paying. So it's not just a matter of finding businesses that we don't know exist, but it's also a matter of analyzing, if there are 10 car dealers and 5 paid this much and 5 paid, why is that? Is it, what is it because of the industry change, or what is it? When the economy changed, we looked at the fact that collections went down because cars weren't selling. So we can use those tools. That's what I do. That basically, in a nutshell, is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Sounds so simple.
No, it's time consuming. Wow. When I started here, there were about 800 accounts. We have close to 3,500, 4,000. Yeah, and that's the ones we know about. So, I hope that answers your
That's
question.
great. And then all that being said, Mr. Schuster, you were suggesting actually just business privilege tax and
Mercantile.
Well, mercantile, just to begin with that, because that's where we can help you folks. We can
you feel like
accelerate.
there's $500,000 just in that.
I know there is.
Okay.
May I?
Mr. Dice.
Liz,
Yes.
you don't usually come to the meetings.
No.
Do you agree with what he says?
With, as far as the revenue out there?
There's that lump out there that hasn't been touched.
I agree with the revenue is out there. I also know that it's a sensitive issue because businesses that would like to move in here are,
I understand that.
I mean, there's two sides to every story. You can be very aggressive and tax and collect all the money that's due because everybody should pay, right? That's the gist of this. And our budget, 1/3 of it is the business tax. So you have to make a decision, if everybody's going to pay their fair share, then yes, we need to do what he's saying. We need to go after that.
So the next
Yeah.
question is since you're here, would you be recommending to this body to go ahead and do something like this, whether it's him or someone else?
I would definitely recommend that we retain and put back in place the auditing program and using Mark Services if they're free.
Why has it been dropped?
That was a management decision. That was not my recommendation, but that was a decision that was made. They didn't feel that was necessary to keep that staffing.
Was that council's decision, or was that manager's decision, or?
That was council back in May, is that correct?
Well,
Or in March?
this actually started when earned income tax was turned over to the outside collector. Our staff was cut, and the auditing position was cut that same year, so that would have been in 2012. We got through the basic April 15th deadline, and then right after that, the help was gone. And then I assumed all that.
Did we save money by going outside for the earned income tax? Did we save?
Well, the earned income tax under the Act 32 law was, we had to give away current collections, and we kept the in-house for the delinquents. And then last year is when the delinquent was also sent out.
So when it went outside, we lost the ability to go after delinquency.
Not necessarily. I don't believe our contract included auditing procedures, but we would have to get the records to do the, to include the earned income tax as an audit, because what we used to do was audit employers.
Well, when it was in-house, you guys
Oh, we did,
audited, right?
one-stop shop, and everybody was happy.
So it sounds like somebody dropped the ball with the auditing
Yeah.
when it went outside.
And again, it was not my recommendation. I was against it, because, that's where I started here. I started out as an auditor here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Schuster or Liz?
I'm going to have some more for Liz, I think,
Okay.
a little later here.
Okay. One thing you need to know is that when you keep things in-house, we know the people, we know the territories, the land, we know, unfortunately, we know more than we should because we go to the different places of business and, use services in this community, so we know how many employees they have or what they do, and we know how to tax them. So,
I'm personally in favor of keeping all the tax collections in-house. Now, a specialty similar to what he's talking about, that's a
it
little
could
above
really
me. That
help
would have
us.
to.
I'm not saying it can't help us because it depends on what kind of staffing we want to have in the tax office.
But as far as all the other taxes, the 511, whatever, should remain, and come back to in-house.
Yes, please.
Is my thought. And they were taken away back in March of 2013.
Actually, before that, back
Well,
in 2012, it started, yeah.
Yes. But I know the ordinance was changed, 2204.
Okay,
But I'm going to ask council that we advertise for an ordinance to replace that.
okay.
Could you work together? Would that be a viable
Absolutely.
option?
Yeah.
I work on behalf of your residents. That's what I do across
I
the state.
actually met Mark at the conference. I'm on the board of directors for the association, and we discussed some of this before he came here, so, yeah.
Well, could you get together and explain how that partnership would be, and how we would benefit?
I think what they ought to do is, work with Tim,
Yeah,
come back with a proposal, and,
working together.
yeah, if we have to, we'll put together the ordinance, and we'll take a look at it then.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to reports of municipal staff. Mr. Little.
Alyssa.
Okay, Mark, I just want to say thank you for coming and taking your time. Okay, thanks, Liz. Good job. I just want to address the gentleman was up here about the tax increase. Did he leave?
Yes.
Oh, he left. Okay, he left. Well, that's unfortunate, but I just wanted to address his question. He walked away from the microphone, but he mentioned that the tax increase was in part due to the previous consul, and that's not totally the case. That's a minor point. Every consul that comes in any city, borough, township, they all allocate funds the way they want to allocate funds. But anytime you have a tax increase, it's not something that just happens overnight. Tax increases, if they're not done in incremental fashion, which obviously this one isn't, what happens is it builds up over time because nobody wants to increase taxes. Well, except for last year, a minor tax increase of $0.25 mil, Monroeville had not increased taxes since 1992, for over 20 years. And I know for a fact from conversations with some of the council members up here, and I know myself from working in Monroeville in the past couple years, conversations that the administrative staff had gone to the previous council, not the past 4 years, I'm going back 6, 7, 8 years, and wanted to increase taxes because they saw the fund balance dropping, but that council did not want to, and that's okay, because Monroeville had a hefty fund balance to draw from, as I mentioned at the budget hearings. So there was, and that hefty fund balance came from the sale of the water company to the sewer authority for $12 million. That's how the community park was built, and we ended up with a good fund balance. Well, that fund balance is not totally depleted, but it is decreasing, and hence the reason why our bond rating went down a notch. That is the comprehensive view of why we had to increase taxes to 4 mils. So if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to email me, they can ask me questions now, or they can come to my office. Just wanted to address his question.
Any a little bit more there, Mr. Little, with the delinquent real estate tax collector?
Yeah, well, we were just talking about business privilege tax and mercantile tax. About 3 weeks ago, I found out we do not have a delinquent real estate tax collector. What happened, the former manager sent a letter to Berkheimer. Berkheimer collected our delinquent real estate tax and deleted their contract, which was up at the end of December 31st, 2013. Now, that is not a critical situation at present. Those people that have not paid their real estate tax, if they're delinquent, the vast majority of them, they come in and they pay, and Mr. Fulkerson, our tax collector, our real estate tax collector, is collecting that. But we do need, as we're moving forward, we do need a delinquent real estate tax collector, and I have proposed this to council in conversations and emails with council. And I'm opening this up for discussion with council, and if council wishes me to, we can put a request for proposal on the council meeting coming up this Tuesday for delinquent tax, real estate tax collectors, and there are a few out there. There's been suggestions made that we can use the same firm that the school district uses. We can still stay with Berkheimer, or we can seek RFPs from other companies that do this, or we can keep it in-house with Mr. Fulkerson. And I think Mr. Duncan was alluding to a statute, a provision that I read, and I'm not totally clear on, and I'd have to hand that off to our solicitor on whether or not we would have to do that and keep it in-house and keep it with Mr. Fulkerson. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
Well, I just feel that he was an elected tax collector, that whatever we can keep in-house, we should keep in-house. And especially after reading that it's basically a law for the tax collector in the Monroeville Code. I guess what I'd like to do, Bruce, maybe you could help me with this. I'd like to advertise an ordinance to restore Ordinance 2204, which was repealed back in March of 2013.
Okay, and you've said it exactly right.
And giving the tax responsibilities back to the tax.
So why don't you ask for council's permission to get Tim to advertise it for next meeting? Not next, I'm talking about May's meeting.
For Tuesday.
You can do that tonight if you want to. We're merely talking about advertising. We're not talking about taking any formal action. If what you're seeking is to go back to where we were before the repeal of the ordinance for Pat,
I am.
okay, then my suggestion is to seek council's consensus on that, to advise the manager to go forward and advertise that ordinance for May's meeting.
So it couldn't be advertised for.
No, you don't have
this
enough
month.
time.
You don't have the time.
So is that your desire?
That's my desire.
Okay, is it council's consensus that that's what you want done? Yes. Is there anybody against that idea? No.
Explain to me once more what 2204 is bringing back.
Essentially, I guess, Liz, you could explain a little better than me, the 511 tax collection, which currently the manager does. Is that correct?
No, we're talking real estate tax.
Oh, I'm sorry, under
Yeah,
real
he's-
estate.
Yeah,
But it would also bring back no, there's twofold here. It would bring back if we reinstate the 511 taxes back to the tax office.
Real estate tax is not the 511 taxes.
Okay, but this would also bring the 511s back.
Okay.
Which
Let's
manager?
let's just talk apples to apples here. If Steve is correct, what would be restored would be the mercantile tax, the business privilege tax. Real estate taxes are now collected by Pat. We don't have a delinquent tax collector. That's what Mr. Little's talking about. It's okay. There's also the third area of earned income tax that's being collected by Keystone. And that's a 511 tax also, but state law requires us to go to the district, so Pat can't collect that anymore anyway. So it's not the 511 earned income taxes or the delinquencies thereof. It's the remaining mercantile and business privilege taxes that would be given back to Pat to collect. And I'm talking about now, not the delinquent earned income, or rather, mercantile.
But
or
it
business
could be the
privilege.
delinquent if,
It could be.
okay.
And I don't know that Pat wants to collect that, but I think your motion or your request is well taken. We're going to advertise the ordinance. I think, Ron, the answer to your question is best served by looking at the ordinance that exists, that Steve has made reference to, and it sets out with specificity what it is that Pat wants to collect.
You said that's ordinance 2204?
I believe that's the ordinance that was in existence prior to Pat's loss of it back in the spring of 2013.
So you're telling me if I read 2204, that
Right.
would make it more understandable?
Yes, and it's a quick and easy read.
It would answer your questions.
Okay.
I don't have the ordinance with me.
You
but
just
I know
have
it
to,
was 20.
what I'm trying to point out is there's some subtleties here in these various taxes that everybody has to pay attention to. And earned income tax is keystone. Business privilege, mercantile tax is pat when it comes to, or it used to be pat, when it comes to the collection of the regular taxes that are due. And there's also the delinquency side of it, and that's what I think 2204 deals with. Then there's the third area of real estate taxes that he is already elected to collect. He collects those. I don't know that he wants to collect delinquent real estate taxes. Okay, so that's something we can talk to Pat about, but that's not the subject of either of these discussions.
Confusing.
It is, but that's, what I just said to you is factual.
So a good start would be to reinstate
That's right.
2204. Am I
Right.
correct?
That's correct.
And if I could get counsel.
And you've done that. They've already said yes, all
Okay,
seven of them.
very
So
good.
Tim,
Thank
you have
you.
a direction?
Sure.
Okay, see how easy that was?
See?
Oh, it was really easy.
And if I could maybe just, as far as some of the couple of things here, that what Mr. Little was just talking about, the delinquent real estate tax, I would like to see if maybe Mr. Fulkerson and the tax office could collect the delinquent.
Or wants to.
Wants to, could, or have the ability and the wherewithal to do it. And Mrs. Summer is saying that they do want to do that, and they can do it. Now, to go back to the presentation with Mr. Schuster with turnkey taxes, I would go with what Tim suggested, as far as maybe the manager meeting up with Turnkey and Pat and Liz and seeing if that is a piece that we can add in. Seems like there's a lot of moving parts here, and there's a lot of pieces, a lot of accounts that, and taxes that need to be collected. It seems like we need a lot of hands on deck. So we may make that happen to see if it would work with the tax office, and then council can take it from there.
That sounds reasonable.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all, that's all.
Mr. Dice, you had a comment?
Yes, I had been approached by a couple of the council people concerning an article that appeared in the newspaper, and it was addressed by an individual, I'm sorry to see, he also left. And it talks about, the headline is, Monroeville hires private investigator to conduct internal probe. I've been doing this for more than 3 weeks, and I have found over the years, and I think some of you remember this probably, when the newspapers used to report news. And you'd read the newspaper and it would be factual. It would talk about what happened during the day's events. And it would be current events, it would be about the various things that are happening in the city, the state, and the federal government. And it was a reporting process. Well, that process has morphed into now newspapers create the news. And this is an example of creating news, this article that was put in the newspaper. And here's the creation. Monroeville hires private investigator to conduct internal probe. That's the headline. Doesn't that catch your attention? Oh, man, I got to read that article. But it's simply just not true. And this is the unfortunate part of our business up here. Council's newly elected. And unfortunately, when you're newly elected, you think everybody thinks you're the best thing since sliced bread. Well, believe it or not, the newspaper people, and I'm going to tell you this from experience, are not your best friends. They're not there to try to report what a nice guy you are. What they're there to do is to report and create a news event. And that's what's happened here. I will tell you that there has been discussions concerning the previous reports that were done by council. Geez, we've discussed it every month since I can't remember last about the reports concerning HIPAA. And then the ancillary issue of whether or not there was privacy issues. But the thrust of the entire investigation or the entire inquiry was surrounding this HIPAA issue. And everybody remembers meeting after meeting. I remember meeting after meeting where people would complain that the entire investigation hadn't been concluded. People hadn't been interviewed. People who had been requested to be given interviews weren't given the opportunity to give interviews under that previous investigation. Interviews were conducted and information was reported that now it turns out when you talk to the individual who gave the report initially is totally inaccurate, almost to the point where it's misrepresentative of, where now there are statements authored by individuals as opposed to prior to statements being authored only by the investigator, not by the individual, who discount or otherwise recant what was said. And council's been stirring on this, I think, since probably November election, months before the seating of this council. Now we have the entire new council seated, and you saw in January they began the process of trying to vet themselves of what's happened in the past year. And they're new. They don't, they've never experienced. This is a life experience that none of them have ever had. And, how many of you out there have been involved in such a complex meandering of individuals and statements being made about each other? And what do you do? And that's been the subject of executive session discussions, how to handle it, what to do about it. And they said to me, what would you do? What do you think, Bruce? You've done this before. You've been doing it for a while. Well, one of the things you can do, my suggestion is to possibly hire an investigator to investigate the investigator. Take a look at what was said. Go back to some of these statements that you think may have some reason to be re-reviewed. There are things out there that still are hanging chads, so to speak. There are still things that aren't completely clear. And I think this council wants to bring back and vet this process, bring back to the people a complete report, not on just the HIPAA violation, but also the privacy matter and all the other things that people who didn't get a chance to be spoken to get the opportunity to speak to them, to clear up any ambiguities and go through that process. Well, how do you do that? Well, maybe you hire an investigator. Now, does that mean we've hired an investigator? Well, Monroeville hires private investigator to conduct internal probe. That's what you call creating. That's just not happened yet. There is an individual, there is a firm, CSI. We've used them at Gateway School District. I've used them in other areas. I suggested, do you want to talk to them? No one in council has met these individuals. They've not met with them, never discussed anything with them. I said, Bruce, go out and find out, are they interested? And I did that. And they are interested in getting involved. And they have made some initial inquiries without a contract. They don't have an agreement with us. There's no understanding. There's been no situation where a contract has been signed by anybody. Tim has received a proposal. It's on the agenda, and all you have to do is read the agenda if somebody would do it, under new business, item 1. So, right now, there is no contract. On Tuesday night, we're going to be seeking approval to enter into a contract that has a not to exceed $10,000. Is it necessary? I think what's necessary is for this council to come to some final conclusion on this matter as quickly as we can. I think that it took 18 months or so with the last situation. We're talking about getting this done in a month and a half, and bringing it back to the public, because I think there's still a number of the public that have questions about what went on here. And as a result, council has given me the direction to go to them and make this inquiry. but there's no deal yet. There's no contract with an entity for an internal probe. It troubles me that council then gets interviewed individually. And, of course, again, in the spirit of trying to cooperate with the newspaper people, you're new, first thing you do is, hey, look, this is what I think happened, this is what I heard. As a practical matter, nobody's met any of these people. And it's just unfortunate that this kind of situation continues to go on. It's a lesson for council. Know this, we have a communications contact officer. The last administration stuck to that. It was a good policy. Our communications officer is the manager. I would suggest to you that if anybody from the news media contacts you about your wife, your children, what car you drive, tell them to contact the manager. Don't talk to them about these sensitive issues, because it's not appropriate. There should be one entity, one individual that communicates on behalf of this board. And I would suggest that you follow that policy in the future. If you read the article, there's one line. Solicitor Bruce Dice could not be reached for comment. You're right. I'm not talking to him, because I know what goes on. That kind of advice is good advice for you, too, because, again, if you think that these entities are going to tell the report the news, they're not. They're going to create news, and that's what they do. So that's my advice for future. That's all I have.
Okay, moving on to the proposed agenda for the April 8th, 2014 regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes. We'll be approving the council public budget work session of February 26, 2014, the council public budget hearing of March 6, 2014, the Citizens Night meeting of March 6, 2014, the council work session of March 6, 2014, and the council meeting of March 11th, 2014. Council, anyone have any comments or additions to that?
Dr. Griesbach, I just want to tell you that council has received the public budget work session of February 26th, and I'm still working on the public hearing of March 6th. So the rest of those will not be available for your approval.
Okay. So if council could make that note,
Thank you.
we'll just be looking over February 26, 2014 and March 6, 2014 for Tuesday's meeting. Moving on to the approval of the reports of the tax collections. Any questions from council? Seeing none. Moving on to the list of bills. And we'll start with Mrs. Gatos from Ward 1. Any questions this evening?
No questions this evening.
Okay. And as the second ward councilman, I have no questions as well. Mr. Harvey?
None.
Mr. Johns?
No, sir, nothing.
Mr. Caleri?
No, sir.
Mr. Duncan?
I have no questions.
Mr. Wilson?
No.
Okay. Budget transfers, any questions from council?
We don't have any budget transfer.
No transfers this week, this month. And any questions on payroll? Seeing none. Moving on to bids and proposals, and this is for you, Mr. Little?
Vacancies of boards? Oh, okay, that's for the council meeting.
Yeah.
I got that one right.
Okay, the first, which will be on the, which will be on the agenda for this coming Tuesday, we have a bid that we received on Tuesday, and Mr. Hugus has that in your packet, and that is for the signal down by the Chuck E. Cheese, or they call it the Value City Chuck E. Cheese signal. And council has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entities that have submitted bids, and the low bidder is Traffic Systems and Services from Crafton, PA, for $229,550.85. And that'll be on the agenda to vote on that on this Tuesday's council meeting. Item number 2 are commodity bids, and every year they are rather lengthy for all the different commodities with respect to aggregate, asphalt. These are all purchased in a relatively small amount for as-needed commodities that we use in the municipality throughout the year. Chain link fence, risers for the storm sewer inlets, rail, signs, the poles for the signs, safety material for the playgrounds, the mulch where the kids land on if they're on the swings or the sliding board, and that about covers it. So each of those, the ones that are shaded are the low bids for each commodity. And what we will do is, on Tuesday at the council meeting, council will have to vote individually on each one of these on the low bid, and they are highlighted. Mine, the shading on mine has kind of faded because it's probably copied. But what we'll do for Tuesday is we'll darken that up a little bit so you see it. And what I'm going to do for the agenda is I'll have those laid out specifically for each commodity. Okay, any questions on that?
And so, as Tim said, you're going to see these each year about this time, and we'll do this same thing next year. It's almost a housekeeping thing. It's not anything that you should be too apprehensive of. I mean, again, it's just a matter of going through this process every year to set the lowest bidders.
Okay,
Okay, moving on to new business. This will be for Mr. Little as well.
yes. Item number one under new business is what Mr. Dice had been talking about a few minutes ago. I have a motion on there, a motion to hire CSI Corporate Security and Investigations Risk Management, Pennsylvania Western District, to provide investigative services relative to the accuracy and content of the daily report not to exceed $10,000. That will be a motion. Any questions on that from council? Okay, item number two is a motion to accept Beth Fishman's resignation from the Human Needs and Resources Advisory Board. Any questions on that from council?
Has anybody asked Ms. Fishman to reconsider, or is...
I did. But I think she's moving due to a job.
Fair enough. What's she doing? Got a job?
Moving out of town.
From a job that she was doing temp to perm and has become perm. So I think she's going to be relocating anyway, so,
Good for her, good.
yeah.
Just checking. I wish her well.
Okay, and item number three is a motion to place a quarter-page advertisement, not advertisement, in the ad book media guide for the Gateway Baseball Boosters. Any question on that from council?
Yeah, Tim, I'd like to know, how much does a quarter page cost?
That is on
It's in your
in your packet. Yeah, that should be on that motion there, to tell you the truth. It should be the
I guess
amount.
my question is, why didn't we take a half a page?
If council, normally we've usually taken a quarter page.
This looks like it's $75.
Yeah, but doesn't this benefit the baseball kids?
$75.
Yeah,
No,
what's the
page-
full page, you know?
Half a page would be $150.
Full page is 500.
I don't
What's
know
the
if we
pleasure
need
of
a full
council?
page. But it goes toward the teams.
Historically,
Make
we've-
it equal to all the sporting teams
Oh,
then.
wait, full page
Pardon me?
platinum is only 250.
You would want to make it equal to all the sporting teams then.
We've been consistent at a quarter page.
Okay.
I mean,
Thanks, Ron, for getting that. Okay, and the ordinances are Mr. Dice's.
Yes, the first ordinance is an ordinance number 1667, restructuring the membership of the Monroeville Zoning Hearing Board from 5 members to 3 members for economy reasons. Second ordinance, any comment? None. Second ordinance is an ordinance amending ordinance 2497, the benefits of Monroeville exempt and non-exempt employees. The third ordinance is an ordinance appointing Tim Little as manager of the municipality of Monroeville and establishing and setting compensation and benefits of the municipal manager pursuant to 701 of the Home Rule Charter. Fourth is an ordinance establishing the compensation and personal benefits for the Chief of Police, Kenneth D. Cole. That's it.
Okay, under resolutions, we have a resolution appointing members of the restructured Monroeville Zoning Hearing Board. Item number 2 is a resolution authorizing the distribution of grant funds for the Monroeville Independence festivities. And just a note on this, we received $10,000 from the Conventions Visitors Bureau, and council puts another $10,000 for that, and that $20,000 is budgeted for the 4th of July. And that check can go to them after we pass that. It's done under resolution. And item 3 is a resolution authorizing the distribution of grant funds for the Memorial Parade, and that is for the sum of, I believe, $3,200. Any questions on any of those resolutions? Okay, that completes resolutions.
I did have a comment backing up to one of the ordinances. Is that okay to?
Go ahead, Mr. Harvey.
Too late.
Under the chief's contract,
It is.
number 6, for example, at the end it says in accordance with and applicable with the police collective bargaining unit. Number 7 is supposed to say that also.
We discussed that should be as per the department heads.
I didn't recall that, and it was brought to my attention, so I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I discussed that with Doug.
I think that was specifically discussed.
Yeah,
I don't remember it. I apologize.
yeah, that was, I discussed that with Doug.
With Doug?
Yeah,
Okay.
I discussed that with Doug, yeah.
My apology.
Moving on to reports from the municipal staff. Mr. Dice.
I have nothing else.
Mr. Little.
Nothing.
Mr. Hugus.
Nothing.
Mr. Sedlak, while you're here, any comments for this evening?
None.
Okay. And public comments on any municipal items? Seeing none, and we'll move on to reports of council members. We'll start with Mr. Wilson this evening.
The only thing I'd like to say tonight is to the mayor, hope you're feeling better, hope to see you soon, and that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Duncan.
All I have is I'd like to wish the mayor a speedy recovery, and Dr. Resock, you did a good job filling in.
Thank you. Mr. Caleri.
I have a couple things. So, seniors, we're having a spaghetti festival Wednesday, April 16th, and you don't have to be Italian to love this new event. It's $5 per person. Tickets must be purchased in advance. You can sign up by Wednesday, April 9th.
Time? What time?
There's no time on here.
It's a lunchtime event, isn't it?
It's lunchtime. Thank you.
What date is it again, Paul?
Wednesday, April 16th. So the Reflection of Italy, this is the trip to Italy. There's another trip presentation Thursday, April 17th at 6:30. And for those of you who didn't go thinking, nobody else is going to show up, there's already several people that are signed up and ready to go. So there is a group. The more the merrier. Sign up by May 12th, and you can still receive the discount price. And lastly, there's a senior luncheon, April 28th, 2014. If you didn't get that on camera, somebody just threw something at council. There's a senior luncheon.
It's a lifesaver.
April 28th at 12 p.m. You can enjoy an afternoon once a month where you don't have to worry about making your own lunch. The April menu is stuffed cabbage. It's served with mashed potatoes, Italian green beans, dessert, coffee, and hot tea for the low price of $5. Tickets must be purchased by 4/23, and everybody's invited to stay for bingo afterwards. I'd just like to make a couple, talk about Mr. Moynihan's comments. I wish Mr. Moynihan was still here. He used words like retaliation. He used words that, about my side and opposition. Well, I'm here to tell you, my side is Monroeville. I don't have time for retaliation. There's always going to be opposition. The one thing I want to make loud and clear, we don't do things behind closed doors. We don't do things secretly. I hope Mr. Dice clarified that for everybody. There's always going to be your naysayers, but the one thing I want people to understand, loud and clear, our side is Monroeville. Doing this for you guys. I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my family. I take exception to retaliation. Unacceptable. Again, Mr. Moynihan's welcome to come up and speak again. And I don't know what side he is referring to, what his side is, but I know it's not the side of Monroeville. That's all I have, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Good job today.
Thank you, Mr. Clary. And Mr. Johns, any comments this evening?
Yeah, I do. I have a few. Good luck, Mayor. I hope you're feeling better, number one. Everybody knows I've been complaining for a couple years about Northern Pike Hill and a gas leak. That's been going on for a long time. I whine about it continuously. Well, obviously, the whining sooner or later pays off. They get tired of hearing you. And with that and the help of Mr. Hugus, we have received an email, and it looks as though in late June or early July, as soon as the kids are out and they don't have to deal with the buses, they are going to replace that entire gas line. And that's a definite for sure. That being said, there's a couple other things going on in the community. The National Collegiate College Table Tennis Championships are going on starting April 4th, which is tomorrow, through the 6th at the Monroeville Club Sport and Health, better known as a Racket Club. This is a pretty big deal. These kids are coming from 27 countries around the world. And it's pretty unique. They have adults for a $5 a day or a 3-day pass for $12. Students and seniors are admitted for $4 a day or a 3-day pass for $10. They have 250 to 300 participants from major colleges all over the country going on with this thing. One other thing here, the Convention Center in Monroeville, there's some events going on there. The Kennel Club Dog Show, April 5th through the 6th is going on at the North and South Halls. The Toy and Comic Book Show is going on Friday, April 11th through the 13th. The big deal this year is Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Productions, is putting on a boxing match. It's a pretty big deal. I believe Showtime is going to do a live presentation. They have 5 different bouts going on. Tickets are going to be going on anywhere from $35 to $100. I mean, obviously they're going to be somewhat, but it's drawing a lot of attention across the country. It's pretty good for the community in Monroeville. The International Gem and Jewelry Show, Friday, April 25th through the 27th. And I'm trying to get there. The gun show is coming up Saturday, April 26th and the 27th, also in the North Hall. The Pan Spring Coin Show is going to run May 8th through the May 10th, and the Pittsburgh Folk Festival is Friday, May 9th at the North Hall. Any questions or anything you need to know, either email me or give me a call, and I'll do my best to answer for you. With that, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Mr. Harvey.
Yes, I hope the mayor a speedy recovery, but I don't want him to come back. No, I'm just. Again, like my counterparts, I wish Mr. Moynihan would still be here, because I don't think I was at the same meetings he was at. When he said HIPAA wasn't a big deal, holy mackerel. I could have swore I was sitting back there, but I must not have been, because they made that the giant smokescreen of this whole thing. And then he said something about personal privacy did that have to do with the investigation saying that, like, the 911 center had credit card information? Anybody tell me when the 911 center asked you for your visa information when you called? I don't know where he was coming from. I had to be in a separate room because HIPAA was the big deal. NCIC and Clean, which is the crime and information computer downstairs, he said that they claimed that 2 dispatchers violated that policy. I was in the meeting when the state police investigators cleared those 2 dispatchers for that wrongdoing. That letter's coming. So everybody hang on, because then the next thing he said was the Attorney General. And we're going to get that cleared up too, because the Attorney General is what everybody is basing their remarks on now, counting him and the remarks in the paper, and they didn't do an investigation either. And if it's the last thing I do up here, that's going to be shown to the residents. Because when I went around to the residents, they had a request. When I campaigned, they had a request. And they were almost all the same on every door that I knocked on. That was put Doug Cole back, that's done. Fire Lynette McKinney, that's done. Restore education requirements for the manager-in-chief, that's done. And don't get rid of the dispatch center. That's not going to be done. And the last thing they said to me was, please find out the truth behind all this crap and report it to us. That's going to happen. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Mrs. Gatos.
First of all, speedy recovery to our mayor, and look forward to seeing you back again shortly. Thank you, Mr. Graysock, for your job tonight. I think you did exceptionally well. I would like to also touch on Mr. Moynihan, who I feel has done just like he does on the computer. He says what he wants to say, then he leaves so that you can have no debate, although he states that he will debate anybody on any point. So he's also stated that, about us having 7-0 votes. Well, most of our residents are very glad to see that all the members of this council are working together. But there's always, some bad apples trying to create issues. Well, we spend a lot of time discussing, debating all issues prior to making the decisions. It's not necessary to sit here and argue amongst ourselves in front of you, the residents. I know prior to sitting up here, I would be out there in the audience, and I'd see residents bringing snacks into the meetings and enjoying a free night of entertainment. Well, let me say that free entertainment has come at a very high cost to the residents with all the budget issues we've had to face upon being sworn in. For those of you who missed what I refer to as a car wreck, just couldn't help but to watch it, please know that I, along with the dedicated individuals all sitting here with me, we want you to take your kids to the park or go get ice cream with your family for your entertainment, not come here for it. We always will welcome all your questions and concerns now and in the future. Lastly, the new bandwagon that we'll say it's Mr. Moynihan and his group are jumping on is in regard to our police department. Well, hiring is not done based upon assumption but actual facts. Nobody hires and pays employees in case they may be needed somewhere in the future. That would not show financial responsibility. With the budget deficits that were handed down to us from the previous council, we currently now deal in facts. We will, with the advice of our chief of police and manager mayor, not a secretary, do any hiring necessary so that you, the residents, and also our men and women of the police department are not put in any danger. It is being stated also now by their group that the number of men covering a shift is down. This is not true. There are shift minimums, and those are being met. Again, could we please deal on facts and not start rumors that are untrue? And with that, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Gatos. I wish the mayor a speedy recovery. I certainly don't want to get too comfortable in this chair. I didn't want to do too good of a job to show him up. Mayor, we hope you're back on Tuesday. I'm a little more comfortable down there in Second Ward seat. So, it was brought up a few times, actually, but a resident asked about where CSI Risk Management was hired. They were utilized by the Gateway School District, and they were a highly regarded, highly reputable company. So hopefully they get to the bottom of things. There certainly were a lot of unanswered questions that have been brought up. I did feel that there was a lot of things that could have been done in-house, primarily the laundry list of items that Health and Human Services asked us to respond to. They asked us for a number of items, which I don't believe any of us is even certain if that was handled appropriately by the special legal counsel and by the investigative team that was hired prior to this. So hopefully, all of this will be behind us soon.
Can't hear.
As far as handling things in-house, one comment I would just like to make is that I do feel that a lot of things could have been handled in-house, and that is actually even going back further prior to the original complaint to Health and Human Services of August 21st, 2012. Me, as a council person, along with Mr. Johns and Mr. Duncan, were not privy to any of the information that led up to that complaint until an executive session of March 7th of 2013. If we would have known that, and if council would have been alluded to that, I'm certain that most of this could have been handled in-house and taken care of and not have been turned into this mess that we have all experienced over the past 2 years. So, that being said, hopefully this is all behind us soon. Moving on to announcements, the 19th Annual Jack Sedlak Memorial Cleanup Day is scheduled for Saturday, April 26th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Residents are asked to select a roadway, a park, or a neighborhood to clean up. You can register now by submitting a form to the Recreation Department. Everything's handled at the Recreation Department, or calling them at 412-856-1006. There'll be a picnic afterwards, not even weather permitting. We do it regardless, cold, snow, rain, whatever.
A lot of nice prizes.
And a lot of nice prizes, a lot of good donations, and all the participants up to the first 250 receive a free T-shirt. So please come out. It's a great event that's been going on for now 19 years, and we hope to see you out there. And from the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee, once again, the latest program guide is out. So hopefully everyone has received it in the mail and can look through some of the programs that are being offered. You can also find information online. Mr. McMasters, Dave Masters came up with the fishing event that's coming up. That is Tuesday.
The 8th for stocking.
The 8th of April for stocking. And there's many special summer camps that are going on for families that are working families, that in the school year they need childcare per se. A lot of special summer camps that we offer through the Recreation Department. So please check out what the Recreation Department has to offer. And once again, wishing a speedy recovery to Mr. Arasinko. And with that, I'm seeking a motion for an executive session for personnel
Can I
and...
make one announcement I forgot to do before you do that?
Hey, we skipped you, buddy, you're done.
Mr. Harvey has one more thing.
The residents on Donley and Burke Drive, I've sent you a letter asking if you want these streets posted for no parking. I hope to have those results by Tuesday. So if you haven't sent those back in, please get them in so we can decide whether we're going to do that or not.
So moved on your motion.
Second.
At some point.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to go into executive session. Have a good night.